Welcome back to Football 301. I am your host, Nate Tice. Today, we're going to talk about things you don't know about the playoff race, things you don't understand. My producer Stone, I should say, really wants me to maybe throw in some insults like what you numbskulls don't get about the playoff race. I also had, I think it was True Life, the MTV show. I was also, I threw a reference to that in our group chat saying, you think you know, but you have no idea about the NFL 2025 playoff race. But to help me do that, to help me sort this out, to help give you plebs some information, hopefully no one's taking this the wrong way, we're having good fun here, but to help me do that, to help me maybe insult you a couple more times, is my guy, Mr. Matt Harmon. How you doing, Matt? Great little neon sign behind you, too. I'm really enjoying that. Yeah, it was neon sign because I got to put mine up, too.
Yeah, I got to get my big head out of the way so people on YouTube can actually read what it says back there, Yahoo Fantasy, as opposed to if I sit the wrong way, it's just who to see. Anyways, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to hopefully not, talk down to the people with some of these talking points, but it's a good time to have this discussion here, Nate, because, Big Football says the season doesn't really start until after Thanksgiving. That's when it begins. Yeah. And I feel like the NFL world that we live in now is very different than the pre-Thanksgiving world. Like, things got really shaken up in this Week 13 slate of games. So it's a good time to be kind of resetting the table here.
You can tell when the new season, I guess, or the late stage of the regular season really begins. The sprint to the playoffs is when you see draft content really increasing. You see the draft, so because the teams I realize, fans of the teams realize, oh, we got 2 wins, 3 wins. Who are some of these running backs? What do you guys think about the quarterback class, the receiver class? And I feel like that just ties in perfect timing with the holiday season and everything. And people also say that the first month of the season is just an extended preseason. So I guess we just got a couple weeks of a real NFL season. So, that's just how Pretty it goes, much. Apparently. But no, it's going to be, I do want to say we're just being facetious with what we're saying, because a couple of our points are going to be, I'm pretty fun to talk about. I saw a couple which you had, and I have mine as well. But it's really fun to just kind of break down like, hey, maybe this is what you thought first couple months of the season about this team, but this is what's changed, or this is the new question for this team, or the new answer for this team. So it's going to be really fun to break into, because the NFL, things change quickly, and it's really looking at splits and looking at changes and looking at tweaks. That's what's so cool about the NFL, is that it's always evolving, always changing, even in the season, even in month by month. So it'll be fun to get into that a little bit, because we're going to first talk about the Monday Night Football game last night. This was not the Super Bowl rematch of old with Tom Brady going against the NASCAR package of the Giants defensive line. The Patriots really stomped the Giants. The Giants had a couple moments early on, but the Patriots really controlled this game 33-15. Featured a lot of heavy hits, some big hits from the Patriots defense. Oh my God, Christian Ellis try to put Jackson Dart like, hey, get down. He was like, hey, I heard your coaches are telling you to get down. Let me give you another little example of why you should be getting down. And I thought Drake May just helping build his MVP case in a wide open year with just another excellent performance. He's now first in e-paper dropback, first in yards, first in success rate, first in completion rate, all that good stuff. But Matt, any takeaways from this game? There were some interesting moments on that Patriots offense, so I'm curious what some of your takeaways were.
Yeah. First of all, just about the Jackson Dart part of it all, I saw Mike Vrabel say after the game, that's a good reminder to quarterbacks, our quarterback, like, don't play around on the sideline. So I thought that was just funny for him to say, hey, this is something we all, like young players, we got to learn, get out of bounds in that moment. Like, that extra half a yard is absolutely not worth you getting blasted in that scenario. And I think that's going to continue to be a talking point for Dart the rest of the way. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, on the Patriots offense, man, you got an explosive play to Kyle Williams for the touchdown. That was cool to see. He's a guy who I think, I don't know if he's going to have a big role this year, because I'm not really sure where he would fit in. Matt Collins is doing his Matt Collins thing where he's hanging around, playing a lot of snaps. Steph Diggs is kind of a tough player to predict in terms of when he's going to have big games, but every time he kind of catches the ball, it is impactful for this team. And then Kayshon Boutte, again, that touchdown that he had there, that was a great just a great example of like almost a veteran quarterback and a veteran receiver with great connection at the goal line. And we're talking about a second-year quarterback and Kayshon Boutte, who was like maybe on the roster bubble over 365 days ago, like when they opened training camp, last year. So just I thought that was a good example of the growth that we've seen from the young players on this offense, how I think detailed the passing game is, and getting a few explosives on the ground game as well. I don't think they're ever going to be a consistent, punch kind of steady matriculating ground game, but if they can get explosives from Travion Henderson, I think that matters a lot. So yeah, I just love watching this Patriots offense. I think they're very buttoned up, they're very detailed, and I also kind of like that they're getting to some explosives here along the way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Giants defense, again, them stopping the run has been an adventure this season. But no, that's been the big question mark. And I'll talk, it'll be one of my talking points when we're talking about things that you need to know about the rest of the season for the playoff race, is that the run game has been imperfect this year, hasn't been really steady. And then they face a couple of offensive line injuries on the left side. Will Campbell's on IR right now. I think he has a high ankle sprain. And then the left guard goes down. Garrett Bradbury shows up on with an illness yesterday, and you didn't even feel it. And it's not like the Giants' defensive line is a bunch of slouches. Like, they can get after you if you're not taking care. But think of the Chargers game. Like, I know it's like 2 months ago, like talking about the extended preseason, but I really do think that buttoned up is a great way to put it. Like, it's a high floor offense because it's very traditional. It's very sound. It's not always sexy. It's very sometimes where I'm like, okay, you can maybe add a few more tweaks with that, but it works. And then they got a quarterback that's operating at a really high level. It's really cool to see. I mean, Kayshon Boutte's been one of the most improved players in the NFL at any position. Been really cool to see his development. Him and May have excellent chemistry. He was force-feeding him last year, and I got a little frustrated with it. But then sure enough, this year, it's like, no, those are more productive touches, more productive targets. Kyle Williams is a nice little like kind of wild card for this team, where it's like that could change some math of how explosive they can even be and like taking stuff out over the top. Like, that's the offense is. In the bad versions of this type of offense, it can feel very tight. There's other offenses in the NFL that you and I talk about, can feel very tight and condensed and just everything's just a slog. May helps pop that open, but then Kyle Williams, if he brings some speed to the game, that helps pop it open even more. And he's getting more touches and more reps and more routes. Only had 9 last night, but that was also because they kind of controlled the game. And I thought the touchdown was just nice because that's why I was excited about him in this offense. And then if they just get the run game to be just not bad, like just be average, it makes them live, so live. And then the defense is flawed and has played some really weak offenses. You're facing another rookie quarterback today, or last night, I should say, is, get Milton Williams back and keep them alive. And I don't want to get too much into my points I'm going to bring up on our first and our later discussion, so we might as well just get into that. But I think that is the thing, is that in the AFC, every team is flawed. And so it's just more, get your weaknesses up to average, where it's not bottom 5, just not a glaring, outright huge wart. And I think that just keeps every team live, including the Patriots, who are freaking number 1 in the AFC right now, the 1 seed. But I don't really have many Giants thoughts. I've kind of expelled all those. Jackson Dart, actually, he's grown on me a little bit as a thrower. Just look how tough he is. He's got cojones as a thrower. He's willing to push the ball and try stuff. His timing needs a little work. He does a little bit of bounce around stuff in the back, and that needs to improve upon. I'm willing to kind of wave it away. This is exactly how he was in college. I don't know. I'm more optimistic about him, but I still have a lot of concerns overall still with how many hits he takes and how long he takes with some of the stuff. But the highs of him are still like, okay, that's intriguing to me. That's okay. Okay, we can maybe get something out of this where it's not like, oh, dead on arrival. It's not McCarthy, or something like that. It's like, okay, no, you're a live one. Even if you're not perfect and it's not everything I want to see so far. But yeah, who knows what's going to go on with that team. I think I promote Kafka. Lane Kiffin's off the market now. So no Lane Kiffin's in the Giants. There's a 1% chance of that. And I was hoping to see it, but no, Lane Kiffin's going to Baton Rouge and get oh my God, $100 million a year, it seems like. But no, Patriots, fun offense, I think, because just the quarterback is just so freaking good. I'm curious where they go.
Can I share one Drake May stat with you before we move on here? I mean, come on.
Yes,
you may have even talked about this already. But before we get off this game, I know we'll talk about Patriots here more, but I was doing the solo recap for the fantasy show last night, and I was just, 11:30 at night. I'm not looking up a in-depth stat. I'm trying to get through that recap and go to bed. But I was saying on the show, like I feel as if one of the things, and you saw it in this game last night, one of Drake May's superpowers this year has been he's taken a lot of sacks, but it feels like he doesn't ever take a crushing sack. It's like he doesn't lose a lot of yards when he gets sacked. And so I was like, there's got to be some way to look up yards lost per sack. Well, shout out to John Lagaza, who does some work for The Athletic and Fantasy Life. He literally, I woke up this morning, 6:35 a.m. John had posted a graph from, and I'll retweet it on my page here on Twitter. Like all the starting quarterbacks who have taken 175 plus attempts this year, yards lost per sack. There's only two players that are below 5.8. It's Drake May at 4.5 and actually Jackson Dart at 4.1. So I thought that was interesting. These two guys both played, and it's just it is a stark difference between the amount of yards these guys are losing per sack versus everybody else. Like I said, it's Dart at 4.1 yards lost per sack. Drake May is at 4.5, and then it's Spencer Rattler at 5.8, Jalen Hurts 5.9, Justin Herbert 5.9, Pat Mahomes 5.9. Like it is a stark difference what he is, and obviously just Drake May has played a lot more than Jackson Dart. So it's a stark difference between what May is doing in the pocket and avoiding really big negative plays versus the field, which is just another testament to his season this year.
It is. It's kind of, it's one of those things. Of course, people that follow me know I really like him. I think he's just a really good player, and we're going to see it. But it's like just even the box score numbers, like it's just the fact that like that all matches, the underlying numbers match. Like I love that stat too. It's like his athleticism is still kind of underrated, I think, even though you see him running at times. When he broke contain on a play, it was a third down, and he outruns Abdul Carter to the edge. It was like, and now he just gets to the first down marker, gets past the first down marker. So what you're saying though is not every sack is built the same, and that's something like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones in the past, he was part of this archetype. It wasn't that they took a high amount of sacks. Those were like 14-yard losses, 9-yard losses, 12-yard losses. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4 yards. And also, and I was trying to look this up while you're talking because I've been meaning to look this up, is after May takes a sack or there is a negative play, just wait for that next play because he's going to try and get it back on the very next play. Like if there's a sack on the previous play, all right, unpin the grenade, and he's going to chuck it past the sticks and try and get that first down back. And so it's just good ball. It's just good ball. I know he's up there with the MVP race, but I think it's totally justified, even if I obviously am a fan of how he plays because I think he is awesome. And I think he's like a top 5 quarterback locked in probably for the next decade. So, all right, let's move on though. Talking about some tidbits for you guys for this playoff race. Yeah, we just kind of a behind the scenes peek. We just kind of wanted to talk about this race in some way. And, that's really what it was. It was, how do we talk about how wide open it is? How do we point out just kind of like some key aspects? So we each got 4 different things that we're going to talk about. There's a couple overlap on one of the teams in particular. But Matt, we'll start with you. What was kind of your first what you need to know about this playoff race and the teams involved in this playoff race?
Yeah, this is the biggest example of what I talked about at the intro here, and that this feels really different than before Thanksgiving. Like that loss for the Lions on Thanksgiving, they're in serious trouble now. It got to me, at least, maybe it just snuck up on me. Maybe this is me saying, hey, idiot, being myself, like I'm the idiot. Maybe you're a little slow to this, but it got late in a hurry here for the Detroit Lions. Like according to the Athletics playoff predictor, they've got a 30% chance to make the playoffs after that loss to the Green Bay Packers. If they lose on Thursday night to the Cowboys, it's almost over. They go down to a 12% chance. Then they play the Rams next week. They lose that game. It's 5%. Things are kind of slipping very quickly here, and it's that meme of the raccoon who drops the the cotton or whatever in the like cotton candy in the water, and it just like dissipates really quickly. That's where the Lions sort of playoffs and their sort of contention right now feels to me. It feels like it's slipped away very, very fast here, and they might be without Amon-Ra St. Brown in this game, and it's tough because I like so much about where this team is and some of the things that they've done this year. You know, I like some of what Dan Campbell's done as the play caller. I really like the way the defense plays, and especially when they're such a tough unit to play against, even if they have dealt with injuries. And that's sort of been a theme of them all year. It's right when they can't afford it, a key injury comes up. So it just looks like one of those years where what goes wrong, what can go wrong does go wrong, and it's been tough on the Lions in that way. And now again, you're sitting here at 7-5. You lose this game on Thursday night, it's almost over, and that just feels really tough for a team that, you know, it should be one of the inner circle contenders, but it's the words of Dan Campbell a couple of years ago when they lost against the Niners in the NFC Championship game. It's going to be really hard to get back, and we might never make it back. It's as an example of the attrition, I think, on the roster and on the coaching staff, both attrition from an injury standpoint and just like, hey, you've lost a few guys along the way. It gets tough, and then you enter an off season. If you miss the postseason, I don't know if you're asking any serious questions about key premium positions, because you have a lot of premium positions locked up, but you kind of maybe have to ask yourself some identity based questions. So again, it just feels like it got late really early here for the Lions in a way that I wasn't maybe prepared for.
The sun came up quick. I think maybe, or the sun went down quick. Maybe that's a better analogy, because it got late, as you were saying. I've kind of hit on it a few times the past couple weeks. Like I just feel like I talk about the Lions a lot. I don't want to say I shrug my shoulders, so I kind of go like, I don't know. But it's pretty. The interior offensive line is not only taking a step back when they were healthy, but now they are not healthy. So it's a double step back. Anytime you're trying to bring back Frank Ragnow with a grade 3 hamstring tear, was not even just a strain. That kind of is just pretty indicative of what's going on with the offense too. And on top of it, this is a team, again, that demoted their offensive coordinator to have Dan Campbell start calling plays, which has had some moments, but also is just kind of continuing some frustrations. Like, and it's funny because if you look like overall points and some EPA stuff, they're actually still pretty good. Like they're still 7th in EPA per play. They're 2nd in offensive points per game. And it's just those underlying numbers that have just been like kind of talked about, like where it's just like, this is just a little iffiness with this offense right now. Like we're just going beat by beat with it. Knockdown rate, which is how many times the quarterback's been hit or sacked. This year, 15.6%. That's 28th in the NFL. Over the last 3 seasons, it was 14th. You know, fluctuated between 10th and 15th, you know, somewhere of that sort. PFF has the Lions allowing 25 sacks this year. Last year it was 24 the entire season. The year before that, 23. They have the highest rate of 3 and outs since Dan Campbell took over. They're 14th this year, at about 30%. And last year was 21%, which is about first or second, I believe, but top 2. So this year it's 14th. So again, they're going from, it's not outright bad. It's just when you go from awesome, excellent, amazing to average or slightly above average, that's still a big drop off. That's going from tier 1 to tier 3. That's 2 tiers. Like that is significant. I've talked about it on the other end when teams go from, in certain aspects, go from bad to not bad or to not. That's going from tier 5 to tier 3. Now you're going from tier 1 to tier 3. That's still a drop off. Lowest rate of gains of 4 or more yards, which is significant in this offense. Last year, they were 1st in the league. This year, they're 13th. And in the run game, you know, they because it's dropped off as well, they're 38.2% rushing success rate this year. 40% is kind of the number you got to get to. I always say that, but 40%, if you get to that. Again, this is not awful. 38%, they're just under that number. Right now, that's 24th. Last year, they were 44.6%. That was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, depending on where you look. But again, when you drop off that much, going from 1st, 2nd, 3rd to 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, it feels that way. When they don't get these explosive plays, the Jahmyr Gibbs big plays, there's a lack of sustainability, and it's an offense that needs a little. That's what Goff, how he has to operate, how he should operate. Pressure kind of unravels him, but also just the run game not being it's still solid, but not being unbelievably amazing, that matters. That matters a lot. Now you don't have Sam Laporta as well, but even just it helps other situations as well. So 3rd and long, this year, 22.4% conversion rate on 3rd and long. It's a little bit below average. Last year was 34%. So they went from 1st in the league or 2nd in the league to 19th in the league. Again, awesome to average. And because that run game has dropped off, and I know you know this a little bit with receiver play, with the high-end receivers. High-end receivers, high-end passing game, all right, you're going to get more too high coverages. But if you have a really effective run game, then you get more loaded boxes. And all this is all tied together. So this is a little kind of like a disclaimer. When people use box count stats, you could just really use coverage stats because it's just the safety rotation. That's all the difference is. So this year, they get too high coverages about 35% this year. It's about over 10% more than they did last year. So when you get too high coverages, okay, their offense or defenses are just going, all right, run the ball. Like, we don't care. You're only getting 3-4 yards. You're not getting 40. Like, we're not scared of you getting these big runs anymore. So then everything's just a little harder. Their screen game has gone down from one of the best to average. So everything's just a little harder, and defenses are just going like, okay, well, they're not as threatened. It's still a solid to good offense. It's just not as venomous and amazing as it was in the last year or two. So I'm kind of just adding on to what you're saying. And now, well, you mentioned this. I mean, if they lose this game, 12% chance to make the playoffs. If they win, it's 45% chance. And they're going against a Cowboys team that since week 11, they're 5th in knockdown rate. They're 5th in rushing success rate allowed since they added Quinnen Williams. They're top 5 in explosive run rate allowed. Before they added Quinnen Williams, they were 29th. They're still a little iffy against the pass. They're more like average, below average, but they're good against the run now. So it's not the easiest matchup that was a couple weeks ago. So it's just, I know I'm with you on this one where it's just like, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just a really tough NFC. And if you have any drop-offs, it just turns into this and how this feels for the Lions right now.
Yeah, and if in the passing game too, if you don't have St. Brown, it's like I'm intrigued by the Isaac Tesla experience in the long term, but it looks really different than a few weeks ago. It's St. Brown, Laporta, Jameson Williams sprinkles in every now and again. To Jameson Williams has to handle 35%, 37% of the team targets like he did last week, and then you've got like Tom Kennedy, Tesla, and even Brock Wright is down at it just there. That if you can't rely on the run game to be the dominant unit that it was, not just because it hasn't been that this year, but also because of this matchup. Yeah. By the way, I think you and I being maybe the highest on the Quinnen Williams trade among big brain football people.
Like, football 301. Biggest fans of the Quinnen Williams trade. Me, you, and Charles are all the same. Biggest fans. Yeah. It looks great right now.
I was going to say that take is aging really well. And, in fairness, they've played some Garbo run games. The Chiefs run game is not exactly that threatening. They played the Raiders. I do understand that. But still, I think when you just watch it, it feels like a much different defense. And I think it will probably feel that way against a banged up offensive line with Detroit on Thursday night. So, yeah, man, it's unless they get Jahmyr Gibbs and some of those just crazy explosive plays, I'm a little concerned.
I am too. It's the screens aren't as good. The run game isn't as good. And again, it's not bad. It's just when you go from that big drop off, this offense is built off of that. Like that, if some other offenses, it might not matter as much, but for this offense, it matters a lot because of just how this is how the plane's built. So it's just everything's just a little harder. And again, when you're going, it's a team, really, the Cowboys are probably one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now.
I don't want to play against
a defense.
And their defense matches up really poorly with what Dallas does well on offense. Like throw those two psycho receivers at you. So it just, it's why it just feels really, and maybe they shock us and they have a great performance, the Detroit Lions on Thursday night. I think that's totally possible. I'm not like out on this team by any means, but just adding to the stakes of how important this game is this week, because they do match up poorly. Even if their offense is able to have success, they're gonna have to score, because I think that Cowboys offense matches up well with their defense.
It's truly a loser leaves town match, like all the way. The Cowboys right now are 23% chance odds, 41% if they win, 9% if they lose. So basically these two teams are in the same boat. Now imagine you saying that a month ago, The Lions and the Cowboys are in the same boat with a month left in the season. Like it's just crazy how quickly this changes. And also the Pickens trade, that's another football 301. I know I was optimistic about it. You were optimistic about it. Like that's another one. The Cowboys moves actually made a little bit more sense. Michael Parsons one still, yeah. But the other ones still, make a lot more sense how this has worked out for the Cowboys. But yes. All right, I'm going to go on to mine. This is my first one, and this is one I hinted at. That's why I couldn't wait to get to it. But really, it's more just I've done preview shows and done recap shows with Charles and We Talk Matt, and I'm always just like talking like, how would I rank the AFC? Because I'm like every week I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not. Was it this like a basic take? Is this a hipster take? Everything what I feel about these teams, and I've realized it's because every team in the AFC is really flawed, and there's no perfect teams, which makes any team that makes the playoffs 1 through 7 like a contender technically to win the AFC. Like it truly does. And so that's my point is every AFC team is flawed, which makes every team a valid contender. If you just look at DVOA from FTN, this is just one stat to look at. You could look at EPA per play, but usually you're going to get in the same ballpark for these numbers. The Colts are third in overall DVOA, which I think will slip a little bit in the next couple of weeks. Second in offense, 13th in defense. Okay, that's actually probably that's the highest for both units, I would say, for all these teams. Chiefs, 6th overall, 3rd in offense, 18th in defense. Broncos, 7th overall, 15th in offense, 5th in defense. Texans, who I'll talk about in a little bit, I think you are too, 8th overall, 24th in offense, which I think will be improving, 2nd in defense. Bills, 9th overall, 9th in offense, 20th in defense. Jaguars, 12th, 21st, 10th. No matter what, the whole point of this, I can go one by one. Just check it out on FTN if you're curious. None of those numbers are top 10. There's no top 10 offense, top 10 defense. It's a bunch of one good unit and then one bad unit, or one really good unit and then one average unit in the case of like the Broncos. Or the Chiefs, really, actually. Believe it or not, the Chiefs are actually good guys. I know it's weird. It's weird. It's weird to say, but they're actually a decent team. I know it's weird. I know that it's annoying and it's frustrating, but they're actually pretty good. It's so weird. But really, my whole point of this, and I think it's just going to continue. I think everyone is getting to the same point. So you're not a total, I'm not breaking any new ground here, is all these teams have glaring weaknesses or are imperfect. Not just the imperfect to like, not every team is perfect, even teams that win the Super Bowl, but these teams have a lot more flaws than you usually see with a month to go in the season. And we have so many teams that are alive to get to the playoffs and so many teams that once they get to the dance, it's wide open, which I think is going to be awesome as a neutral fan. But also it's almost like I'm trying to alleviate some concerns maybe for some fan bases going like, hey, you're not perfect, but guess what? The team you're playing isn't either. So I think just the playoffs are going to be so cool and so matchup dependent that will make maybe my job a little harder with analyzing it and predicting it, but it's going to be a lot more fun and wide open, I think. That's my overarching point. It's a lot of flawed teams, but that's going to make it a lot of fun for the last couple months of the season.
Yeah, this was sort of, I think when we did the Things I Think I Know, podcast a few weeks ago, this was one of mine about the AFC that I think I know that we're going to get some variety in the AFC playoffs.
Yes.
And that was partly what I want to happen. I'll openly admit this here, that I am very much rooting for variety. I think that the AFC playoffs have been just a little too stale in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And look, I love Mahomes. I love Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Like, okay, great. It's just which elite quarterback is going to play the best, and why is it just going to end up being Kansas City at the end of the road with no matter what? I think that's cool, but. You know what else is cool? Some new faces along the way. Some new interesting teams. And to the point where you said this, like any of these teams are live. Like, yeah, I look at the current 1 through 7 right now. Denver, New England, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Los Angeles, the Chargers, Colts, Bills. I mean, I think that almost any of those teams are live, and I don't even look at it as with the way that the Ravens and the Bills are playing right now. I don't even look at that as just like, they're just gonna make it somewhere along the way, and they're gonna beat up on one of these super flawed teams because they're so flawed at this point. So yeah, like I do think that some of these teams are flawed. Even the 1 and 2 seed, I think the Patriots and the Broncos definitely have their flaws, but so do the teams that we generally consider are the inner circle contenders. So I think it's going to be a really fun playoff race here. It'll be a fun end of the season. And, maybe everything that I'm saying here is going to end up being super wrong, and it will just end up being, the usual suspects in the AFC. I think that's possible.
Although at the end of every dream. Yeah. No.
At some point, Chiefs win a game. I mean, come on, like enough already. I couldn't care less about the EPA at this point. Like win a damn game.
The theoretical champs.
Get into the dance. Yeah, congrats. Yeah, you're the EPA champs. You're we're gonna be quoting their EPA until we all turn into a corn cob. I mean, enough already with the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So it just, but they're such a flawed team, and they've just lost more games. It makes it a math problem because other teams might not have a math problem. So I am really excited to watch this as it plays out here, and I will admit I'm not. It's not going to break my heart if it's the same old, but I think the variety excites me.
Well, and that's why I like the Patriots point, where we're even just talking about them, is like, I just keep going like, yeah, the run game isn't great, and their defense, you can throw on them a bit, and so-and-so's hurt, and that's why you can do this. But then it's like, well, who do they play? All right, well, I think they're still live in that game. Like that's why it's just more just like even my own analysis with it all. Like teams we'll talk about a little bit later, but like even the Bills, it's like I've been harping on about how bad their run defense is, but it's like, but they can cover the pass pretty well, and their offense still cooks, and they still got Josh Allen. Okay, that makes them live, and that makes them like more of a contender this season than maybe last year or the year before that, when it was like there's some real juggernauts going on. Think of the Ravens, recently, and the Chiefs. Even I know people are tired of, but the Chiefs have had some juggernaut teams. But it makes just all these teams so live. Like you just go one by one. It's like, oh yeah, they don't have an offensive line. It's like, well, the other team they're playing against doesn't have a pass rush. All right, well, all right. So, it's just going to it's a lot more equal. And I think that's going to be fun and exciting. And even if it is frustrating at times, trying to figure it out and sort it out. But it's just something that I think going into the year, I felt like this year was way more wide open, but I still predicted AFC being chalky. So the fact that it is truly wide open in the truest sense, it's like who's going to get hot and whose weaknesses aren't going to be the glaring weaknesses, just getting up to average. It's just kind of cool to kind of sort through and figure out the splits and changes these teams are making. So yeah, I think it's just worth reiterating. Like you said, you did a couple weeks ago. I think it's worth reiterating because I see fan bases just going, well, we got this. Is that good enough? And it's like, it might be. Might be this year. I might be knocking your team. It might be enough. Who knows? It depends on who you're playing. But I think that's really, really cool stuff. So, but we're going to take our first break. We'll come back with a few more things you need to know for this playoff race. But first, check us out on the Yahoo Sports Network, available to stream on leading fast services and yahoosports.tv. All right. We're going to take that break, and we'll come back with a few more things you need to know for the playoffs. See you guys in a sec. All right, we are back. Matt, your turn. What's something that our listeners need to know about the playoff race? These numbskulls that are listening to Football 301.
They're not numbskulls if they've gotten into the 301 class. That's just not possible. No.
Or they cheated.
Mommy and Daddy can't buy your way into this university. No way. You've earned it. Okay. There's no special treatment.
It's a meritocracy at Football 301.
You're damn right it is. All right. I'm going to admit off the top here for this take, I'm like 50-50 on this is a rest of season take versus a 2026 and beyond take. So this is definitely a not strongly held opinion, but I think the Bears passing game is going to be fine. Yeah, it is a lot. I think the Bears passing game is going to be fine. And I want to emphasize fine. I don't think they're about to go tear through the NFL here. The current number one seed in the NFC, Chicago Bears. That's right. You can't take it away from them. Not here in week 14, baby. It will live forever. So we all saw what Black Friday was. Okay. Where that team, the Chicago Bears, barreled over the Philadelphia Eagles in the run game. It was awesome to watch live.
It was
even more fun to watch on rewatch, although it was super fun to watch. Shout out to our buddy Sam. It was so fun to watch the Next Gen Stats Prime Vision broadcast, just seeing all the action that was going on at the line of scrimmage. And so it was great to see that run game. And then it was obviously you felt a lot of frustration in the passing game. I think that we've talked a lot about Caleb Williams over the course of the year, and it hasn't necessarily just been this steady uptick every week. It's been a little bit up and then back down and then up and then back down. And then, kind of, I think been peaks and valley. Generally, I think still trending in the right direction. But that's how this stuff goes. It's not just a steady ascent throughout the course of the season. And I think that this was definitely, a setback game for Caleb. It wasn't terrible, but it was a setback game, I think, in terms of just his progress over the course of the season. I will just say, though, rewatching the game on film and like really charting out the plays and seeing everything, I think there's just still so much good here from a design perspective. And I also think from really thinking about this too, like, of course the run game is ahead of the passing game right now. If you just look at the two units, I mean, obviously everything is connected. They all play on offense. But if you just think about the players responsible for the run game, it's a lot of veterans on that offensive line. Like, this is why they went out and got these guys. It's why they got Jonah Jackson. It's why they got Joe Tooney. It's why they, Darnell Wright has obviously been a multi-year starter at this point. Of course they're ahead of schedule. Even the back, like DeAndre Swift is a veteran back, not a perfect back, but he's a veteran back. Like, those guys that control that run game, they're ahead of schedule in the passing game, because you look at the passing game, it's a second-year quarterback, it's a second-year wide receiver. Now they're adding Luther Burden to the mix, a rookie wide receiver, a rookie tight end. It's a lot of young dudes in that passing game that I think at times you can feel how much everybody is still thinking. And I also think that when you watch this passing game right now, you feel the differences and some of the wrinkles that they've added along the way in the season. I think they threw a lot at Caleb Williams in training camp, and it was kind of a lot at the beginning of the season. And then they started to parse things back. And now, again, I think they're starting to add different personnel groupings in there where it is like Luther Burden and Olamide Zaccheaus as the two receivers on the field. And I think Burden is a really promising player. I also think he's got a lot of work to do as a one-on-one route runner. Whereas a guy like Rome Odunze, I think is still thinking a lot with kind of his evolving role, because they're asking him to do a lot of stuff as like the insert player in the run game. And they haven't quite weaponized like the play action off of that yet, but I do feel like all that stuff is coming. And is it going to come this year? We'll see about that. I think they've got some tough matchups the rest of the way, so it's going to be tough here for Chicago. They do have some difficult matchups. They play the Packers twice, they play the Browns. Like, there's going to be some tough defenses here, but if these young guys can just click, the light bulb can turn on, they can stop thinking as much and just like let their play do the talking, I think there's still a lot of upside for everybody here. That's including the quarterback. It's including the pass catchers. I'm still really optimistic about where this team is. And I do think they look good enough to me, because if the run game is operating like this and they're really cooking there, and then the passing game can just catch up a little bit, like, we're talking about a team that I think can at least win a playoff game. Like, that's where I view them right now. I don't view them as like a joke. I don't view them as a team that is destined to get smoked in the first round by a better team or whatever. I think they could steal a playoff game. And this is kind of exactly how it went in Detroit. Like, it was run game clicked first, and then the passing game turned on, because that passing game is so detailed. And these are some really young players that I think are still trying to get their everything figured out in this system.
Yeah, they just offensively, and I wrote them out a couple weeks ago, and now really have touched on the last couple of weeks. They're 10th in EPA per play, and that feels about right. And then it's they're DVOA, 12th in DVOA, 12th in passing, 4th in rushing. And if I were just to guess, I'd be like, that's about right. Their passing game's just outside. It's above average, even if it's inconsistent, because it's so explosive. But the run game feels great. I know others have seen that, but that's been all season. I mean, really since the bye week, but even before the bye week, they had moments, especially against the Cowboys. Before Quinn Williams got there. But no, it's a offense that's really, I think, still ahead of schedule of where I expected them to be. I was optimistic that they could maybe climb up here, but already seeing it is really, really cool. The run game, of course, is successful. It's first in rushing success, or second in rushing success rate on running back runs, third in explosive runs, second EPA per rush. Okay, I think that's obvious. Passing game is Ben Johnson hunts for explosives, and it's different than. There's a lot of similarities. I would say maybe about 70% the same of what they did with the Lions, but they have tweaked some things based on the strengths of the quarterback and just maybe the offensive ecosystem. Tons of play action, tons of under center, all the stuff that you just hinted at and talked about, saying that they put a lot on Caleb's plate and put a lot on Rome Dunze's plate. That's a great point, by the way. They ask him to do so much stuff all over the field. Inside, outside, inserting, blocking here. Key blocks, too, where he has to sift and sort out who he's getting. That's hard. I mean, and he's a second-year player doing that, which also speaks to how smart he is. I think that's why you and I really liked him. You could tell he's a smart football player. But they put a lot on Caleb. It's almost like a guy bulking up before he does cardio. I know. Didn't you just do this like a year ago? You know, they just really bulk up.
I'm actually doing it right now.
Right now, right?
I'm back bulking up, baby. And
I was thinking that. So
I was sitting here thinking, like, God, that's a great analogy. I got to eat like 10 ounces of rice here in a minute or something. Like, I don't want to do this, but whatever.
That's what they did. A lot of protein, maybe some dirty weight. You know, there's some dirty gains there. And now they're stripping it down. And now you're seeing some of the abs and seeing some of them other muscles that I do not have anymore. But it's when you look at this, why they hunt for explosives. And again, it's an offense. I love this offense. It's one of my favorites in the league, like, period. Is because they're betting we're going to get that one explosive, that one chunk play, and it'll make up for not, if we hit one out of two of those, that's much easier for us than trying to sustain 3 quick hitters in a row. And that's a math that I believe in because I think that's exactly how you should go about it. And they push the ball a lot. They're middle of the pack. And so when I was talking about it's different offensive ecosystems, I thought they might run more screens because I think Caleb's a good screen thrower, how creative he is. Of course, he threw a pick on a screen last game, but to receivers and stuff. And you see that. Luther Burden has a couple nice ones where you see those trick shots. But they're middle of the pack in screens. As opposed to maybe the Lions with Goff, they were top of the league, them like the Bucks with Baker. But he's first in the NFL in pass attempts of 10 or more air yards. 7th in rate, but first overall. He has 149 passes this year that have traveled 10 or more air yards. The league average among starting quarterbacks is 94. He has 50 more than the league average. He's 9th in yards per attempt. They run more play action than anyone. They run more under center than anyone. That stuff can be... It takes time for the quarterback to get comfortable with it. It's not Matthew Stafford in year 15. That stuff takes time. And a lot of these guys, when I was a quarterback in high school and college, so this was the odds, is that's right when shotgun stuff was becoming more popular. That was just so when I was getting into college, at Wisconsin, which was very traditional, we started sprinkling in a little bit more gun out of stuff. Now these kids are taught gun first, and then they work on under center stuff. It's backwards from how I grew up. So now these young quarterbacks, they have to get more comfortable with under center stuff. It's so funny how it's changed. They have to get more comfortable with that timing, and I think it's better. That is more conducive to long-term success, even if it is harder to do and harder to learn. But I remove screens from all quarterbacks' numbers on True Media. Caleb's air yards per attempt on non-screen passes, so I include play action here, but is 9.9 air yards, almost 10 air yards per attempt. It's 5th highest, but then I looked at who was above him. It's Mariota, J.J. McCarthy, Russell Wilson, and Jackson Dart. So a couple de facto rookies, Russell Wilson, who just chucks everything, and then Mariota, who's actually really playing pretty well in the Commanders' offense, but really just part-time guys. None of these guys have started the full season. So I think that is significant to what this offense is, and I think that's maybe I know people point out the completion percentage. Caleb had a couple sprays, I would say, in this last game, but I also thought he had some really nice moments where he progressed, got to the guy, and maybe something happened where it missed the guy. DJ Moore fell on a play. Luther Burden had an adventure of a route on another play where he stumbled as well.
Oh, I know.
Ben Johnson comes out with a quote.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, where he gets bumped. He tries to like get back on his vertical line, and then he slips because he's supposed to run the. I know Burden has been much more polished and better than I thought he would be as a rookie, which speaks to their coaching and speaks to a lot going on. Ben Johnson comes out with a quote this week, and he says the offense is succeeding in spite of the passing game. So everyone's like, oh, that's Caleb. He's talking about Caleb. If you listen to the quotes and you watch the game, he's talking about everybody. He's talking about the sloppiness of the receivers. And this gets to what's going on with the Lions a little bit. This offense that hunts big plays, if I'm throwing something 20 yards down the field, 30 yards down the field, that receiver better be at that freaking spot because I have to, because of just physics, throw with anticipation. You have to. There's no way, no one, even Caleb, who is one of the strongest arms in the NFL, has to throw with anticipation in the NFL. That's just how it works. The window's closed. So that's why Ben Johnson, you've seen the St. Brown quotes. You remember you brought this up in the podcast where they're joking, oh, is he getting on you about the splits and everything? Because if you're downfield, it has to be really detailed. Everybody has to be on the same page because of where the ball is and the timing of the route and everything. So that's what they're working through. That's what Ben Johnson was getting at, that we're winning in spite of that because of the receivers slipping, and it's because it's just all the young guys. So I'm with you. I think it's fine, and I would even say good. It's just that it's not a down-to-down quick hitting attack. This is by design. This is a heavy hitting attack. This is a home run hitting passing game that's trying to work on getting on base a little bit more. And I think they will do it down the road. But I think this is the operation. This team has 102 explosive plays this year. It's insane how many explosives they get. And that is just the design of the offense. So we're speaking the same language. It's just that I really do think that I'm optimistic about where this is going. But I do think this is just the design of it as well.
Yeah, the fixes actually seem pretty easy to point out. I think that's really encouraging.
I know.
Receivers just need to be a little bit more detailed here. And I'm giving these guys some grace because they're young. And like we mentioned, Dunze's got a lot on his plate. Burden is a young player who's transitioning to the league from a kind of a Mickey Mouse role in college. Colson Loveland looks awesome though. That's great to see. And they put a lot on his plate too, as like an isolated receiver, a tight end who was banged up in the offseason. So like those guys tighten up the details there. And for Caleb, I actually think in a way Ben Johnson's almost by some of the stuff he's saying is encouraging him to hunt for less explosives. And sometimes he's like, when the primary is there and it's open, like just take it. And I think there are some times where he needs to take that, which will maybe not fix all of the sprays, but I think level, balance out the equation there. So it's not like, don't watch this and be like, this guy sucks. Like, no, actually the fixes are pretty easy to find, which is encouraging in my opinion.
In baseball, it's hit for contact, hit for power. They hit for a lot of power right now, and they just need to hit for contact a little bit more. That's kind of just how I look at the passing game. But at this point, independently, this was my next one, and it's about the Bears, but it's the Bears defense. And it's Kyler Gordon, and really overall Bears health is so important for the playoffs because of just what you're getting at, that they can be frisky. And I know they're the one seed and everything, but it can be where they actually win a game and maybe even more, because just what this defense was, which was one of the worst in the league, and now we're getting some health that you're actually seeing that they can be average. And again, I know the AFC is more about this. The NFC has a way more complete teams. Packers, Seahawks, Rams are, I think, all really, really good and really freaking good. But this keeps the Bears alive in the playoffs is if they get their defense just too average. And Kyler Gordon is a heck of a player, really good slot. He's a slot dynamo. And you can tell Dennis Allen is just like, oh, thank God you're back. And so it's him, it's Kyler Gordon and then Jalen Johnson as well, just DB health and linebacker health in general. But on field, Kyler Gordon has played 107 plays this year. They've allowed a 40% success rate, which would rank fourth in the NFL this year when he is on the field. When he's off the field, which is a lot of plays, over 600 or 600 on the dot, they allow a 58.8% success rate, which is 28th in the NFL. Their rushing defense, also better. They go from the 31st in yards per rush allowed into top half of the league in yards per rush allowed. But also what I thought was really more interesting when Kyler Gordon's in there is you get to really see Dennis Allen's kind of trickiness bump up a little bit. They go from middle of the pack blitz rate when Kyler Gordon's not on the field, 14th, 26.7%, to 38.8% blitz rate, which is second in the NFL when Kyler Gordon is on the field. They are just become a blitz happy, crazy defense when he is on the field. And so I do think you could feel Kyler Gordon against the Eagles. There are several moments where they did some disguise stuff, and just because Gordon is so smart. There's a play that I've seen, because everyone breaks down the same three plays apparently. There's this one play, the first third down that the Eagles had, and everyone's getting on the Eagles design that they run all the time. And really the play blew up because Kyler Gordon, of the disguise that they ran, and Kyler Gordon jumped the route. He jumped A.J. Brown's slant route. And so this is just one guy. I'm not saying this defense is going to be top 10 all of a sudden, but they're just not going to be awful like they've been when Kyler Gordon's not on the field, and actually be more average and frisky. So Kyler Gordon going to really help out this Bears defense, and Jalen Johnson as well, and just everybody getting healthy on this Bears defense.
No, I like this call a lot. And when you think about the Eagles, I don't think they really put your linebackers or your interior corners. I don't really think they put those guys in conflict, right?
Not really.
I agree with you. Yeah, no. Only conflict they're putting on anybody is themselves offensively.
Yes.
Anyways, separate conversation. But
yes. I know Eagles conversation is like, oh, don't I don't want to do this again.
I thought about it. And I was like, oh, God, who cares? We'll have another chance to do Eagles, existential crisis. There will be another chance to do it somewhere along the way here. But yeah, they don't really put you in conflict like that offensively. But the rest of their season schedule, the Bears, week 14, Packers, definitely a team that will do it.
Yes.
Week 15, Browns. Okay. Then we get the Packers again in week 16. We've got the Niners in week 17, and then we'll see what the Lions are in week 18. But those 3 games, Packers twice, Shanahan and the 49ers, like that will be a really good test for your theory here about Kyler Gordon, like more so weaponizing the defense and everything there. Like these 2 of the next 3 games straight up against Green Bay. I don't need to tell you those are big games, obviously, for the division, but even just what this defense can be and the sort of ceiling of it, I think that will be really important.
Yeah, that's a great one. Their schedules, they're going to have a lot of fun games. We'll be talking plenty about the Bears. Also, Ozzie Trapilo playing left tackle for him, the rookie. He did fine. I thought he did pretty good. 2 weeks ago, he did good. I thought he did pretty good against the Eagles. A couple moments where he got, but I thought he did pretty good. All right, let's move on to your next one before we hit the break. What's your next thing that the people need to know before during the playoff race? Your favorite team.
I hate this team. The Texans have a real shot to make this thing interesting, though, in the AFC playoff race.
I'm with you on this, Matt Harmon.
They got a real shot to make things interesting. First of all, just let's talk about the schedule. They play the Chiefs this week, then they play the Cardinals, the Raiders, don't care, but then they play the Chargers and the Colts to end the season. So 3 teams there that are kind of contending for the same spots as them. Chiefs and Chargers are wild card contenders, and obviously the Colts are in their division. So it's just straight up from a schedule perspective, they've got important games in the AFC playoff race down the stretch. Also, their defense rules. I think they're the best defense in the league. I think I had them as the first or second defense in our top 5 or top 10 defense show that we did. I was in absentia, but I did my mail-in ballot, and the Texans were one of my top 2 teams. Yeah, and I love the Texans defense. No one needs me to break down how awesome that defense is. I think offensively, CJ Stroud kind of had some clean pockets to work with this past week, which was a nice change of pace. He had one, the interception, definitely a bad throw we're going to want back. But otherwise, him and Nico Collins were cooking like it was 2024 all over again. That was really good to see. I think they've gotten some good stuff out of Jaden Higgins. They're using Jaden Higgins in the way that I kind of wanted to see him used, not as a pure power slot, but almost all of his big catches come when either he's off ball, in motion, or as a slot receiver. So that's been really good to see that they've got a grip on him, and his role is kind of increasing as they're just kind of rotating that second receiver spot around Nico Collins, which is what it should be. All of those dudes are like supporting characters. Your main actor is number 12, and they're kind of behaving in a way that a team that knows that. I think Woody Marks has been a great answer in pass protection, even if the run game is just kind of, I think their ceiling as a run team is okay. So I see some promising things offensively to go along with one of the best defenses in the NFL. And this AFC South feels eminently gettable right now. So that's a big part of it, but also just, again, they could make some noise here from a wild card perspective. As of right now, just playoff odds wise, it's not a perfect one, but they got a 57% chance to make the playoffs, 22% chance to win the division. So there's a chance here for them to make some noise down the stretch.
Yeah, if they win this week, if they beat the Chiefs, which is a big if, because, again, Chiefs are actually decent, they have a 85%. They have an 85% chance to make the playoffs if they beat the Chiefs this week. 40, and then even if they lose, it's still a coin flip, 46%, because, like you said, they have some important AFC games that they're battling for. So I was going to talk about the Texans too. So this was great, and mine was they have figured out their offensive line. Is it the best offensive line I've ever seen in my life? No. Is it a great offensive line? Not really. But it's functional.
Not the worst.
It's not the worst. It's like the Bears defense. It is now not the worst thing I've seen in my life. They have Arianta Ursary at left tackle, who I think is playing well. I was a fan of him going into the draft, but I do think he can be like a Taylor Decker left tackle, kind of like the good tier, but the cutoff of like a Pro Bowler kind of thing. Tyus Howard at left guard, he's kind of become their swing guy, and I'm like, props to him. He's played several spots this year and been solid in all those spots. Jake Andrews at center. Ed Ingram at right guard, who I've had a couple people ask me this because I highlighted Ed Ingram play. They're like, wasn't he bad for the Vikings last year? I was like, yeah, he was the worst guard in the league when he was playing for the Vikings last year. Yeah. And now he's okay. It has some like highlight blocks. And again, when you go from bad to average, big jump. And then they got Trent friggin' Brown at right tackle. He's actually playing well. Actually playing well. And you already mentioned it. Might be the best defense in the NFL. To me, it's them, the Seahawks, Broncos, and like, I mean, those are the ones to me. But yes, one of the best ones on the podium. And they have a pass rush and they can play man. But when you pair it now with an offense that since week 10, so this is when they figured out this offensive line. That's when Trent Brown got in there and everything. They're 15th in success rate. And remember, these are games with Davis Mills starting. 15th in success rate, 15th in EPA per play, 7th in rushing success rate, 9th in pressure rate allowed, 16th in yards before contact per run, and 11th in score rate, point score or score per drive, is what I mean there. But that's solid. And they're also defenses they played: Colts, Bills, Titans, and Jags. Kind of a mixed bag of defenses that they played against. Yeah. But
a lot of teams that are going to be involved in this playoff race, though. So
correct. The flawed AFC. Like, that's the thing. It's like it's all based on these matchups. So if you get an okay offensive line that's not just absolutely an atrocity, I think Stroud last week, especially against the Colts, I thought he played really well. He had a couple sprays early, and then he really settled in, and I thought he was awesome against the blitz, so much that I looked up how well he's been playing against the blitz, and he's been really good against the blitz. Top 10 quarterback against the blitz this year. They have nearly a 49% success rate, all that stuff. He's playing really well, playing smart, not the happy feet that developed. He's so aggressive that I never thought that it would be a long-term issue, but it was developing a little bit because the offensive line was just so leaky that he's really understanding, like, okay, this is how I have to operate. I have to get rid of the ball. I shouldn't push too much here. He's attacking a little bit lower, like as far a little bit shorter to find answers, as opposed to always hunting for big plays, which I think is a good thing for him. So lowest sack rate of his career. Highest scramble rate of his career. He has 21 scrambles this year, and he's missed time. He had 23 his entire rookie year. And he's been successful on 2/3 of those scrambles, about 2/3. He's 13th overall in EPA per dropback, and really his EPA per dropback is about the same as it was as a rookie year, which is one of the best rookie quarterback seasons we've seen in modern football. He's 18th in success rate this year. So again, he's playing about average, give or take, and I think he's better than average. I think he is a good quarterback. And I think if the offensive line that's average, and you got this quarterback and those receivers, like, you can't play man coverage against this team anymore because you got Nico Collins, CJ Stroud scramble a little bit, and all the auxiliary receivers are good. Like, they're plus players or they're winning players. There's no one where I'm like, oh my God, another target to this guy.
Yeah.
It's more like, I prefer to see Jalen Noel, but Higgins is playing well, so I get it. And Xavier Hutchinson's playing well, so I get it. It's not where I'm like, oh my God, what are you guys doing anymore? I don't know. I tweeted this. I was like, I feel as good about the Texans as I do like any team in the AFC, just because of this combination and the way that they've been trending really since the Ravens game. How they've just been trending on offense with Davis Mills and now with CJ Stroud. It's like there's a little bit more optimism about this Texans team, especially after September.
I think they really came to grips with the team that they are. And it was around the time that Davis Mills was starting. So there was this weird narrative about like, CJ Stroud was like a problem or something like that. And I mentioned the yards lost to sacks for Drake May and how he was so far at the positive end. Stroud is actually really far at the negative end. He's the worst in the NFL, like 8.8 yards per. And to me, he doesn't. But he doesn't take a. I think he hit bad habits clearly involved here. Because the other guys at the bad end of it, it's like Michael Penix, Jakobi Brissett, Cam Ward, the guys you'd expect. And it's like Stroud, he's there. But to me, I think he doesn't take a lot of sacks, but he would take really bad sacks. And a lot of that is because they were trying to run these like long developing routes. Now I think they're getting the ball out in the quick game a little bit better. And they're weaponizing all of those players much better. So again, it felt like, I just think the Texans were not a very self-aware franchise this offseason. I think they behaved in a not very self-aware way, and I think they called their games in a not very self-aware way to start the season. Now it feels like they've got a better grip on who they are.
They spent all offseason say that they're going to be bullies, and then they went, wait a sec, this doesn't happen overnight. Like, this doesn't just happen.
Just say
like,
it?
we don't just get a... What? But we said it. We said that's our identity, and it doesn't happen. But no, it's how it feels. I mean, maybe it's just Trent Brown's big ass being out there, but it's like, okay, you guys are a little more physical, and they're just not. And I mean, last year
I can't believe Trent Brown is only 32 years old. I looked it up as we were talking about it.
I had the exact same thought.
I thought he was like 40.
I did too. Forever. I thought he was 38. I'm right there with you. And it actually makes sense because I scouted him when I was still with the Falcons. So yeah, I know, but I thought I had the exact same thought. I was like, you're younger than me? I thought we're the same age. The other thing, you mentioned Woody Marks. And I know in the fantasy show, I was like, he's kind of mid as a runner. Been better, but his protection, he's been as much of an improvement for that protection as the offensive line improvements, because their running backs were so bad in protection. And he's actually really good, especially for a rookie. When he's on the field, they allow a pressure rate of only 31%, which is 4th in the NFL this year. Off the field, it's below average, middle of the pack, but below average. So like he's as much of the improvement as much as the offensive line too, because that also is contributing to how good Stroud is against the blitz. I don't know, man. I just feel way better about this Texans team than I did even just 5 weeks ago. They're really on the upswing, and of course the defense is their main. That's the main unit. But the offense just being competent with this quarterback and those pass catchers, it's like, okay, all right, Texans, it's wide open in the AFC, and I feel as good about you as about anybody else. So we're gonna take our last break, and we'll come back with a few more teams and things you need to know for the playoff race. See you guys in a sec. All right. We are back, and I looked this up on the break, but the CJ Stroud thing, when they're blitzed, this is just speaking of everything we just said, when he's been blitzed this year, attempts of 10 or more air yards, it's gone from 40% to about 34%. And kind of speaking of what we're saying, a little more underneath, quick hitters, just getting the ball out, quick hitters. Like, it's just like they're because the receivers are better. So get the ball to the receivers and let them get north. Kind of just all makes sense. I'll get with one of my next ones, and a player that I feel like you and I have talked about in different ways several times, not just this season, but I just feel like in life. Jakobi Meyers might be one of the most important players in this entire playoff race. And I mean that wholeheartedly.
What do you think? You're me?
Wide open AFC.
You're going to come in here and call some like solid, not superstar, but solid receiver one of the most important players? You think you're me?
Yes.
This is almost like that Deontay Johnson trade.
I'm stealing your bit. He is, though. He's one of the most important players in this playoff race, because the AFC is wide open. The AFC South is wide open. The Jaguars and the Texans have the exact same playoff odds going into today. And he has just been, I said this to Charles, and this was more about personality. I talked about how, Dak Prescott might be the pumpkin for George Pickens' Seabiscuit, just kind of calm down a little bit. That's Jakobi Meyers for Trevor Lawrence. Just you're in good hands. I compared him to the All-State Nets for the college games. That's exactly what Jakobi Meyers is. But since Jakobi Meyers joined the Jaguars since week 10, Jaguars are 7th in passing success rate. From weeks 1 through 9, they were 27th in passing success rate. Yes, again, it depends on the defenses that you play against. One of those was the Texans. They are 11th in explosive passes. They were 21st from weeks 1 to 9 before he got in there. And really, it's just that sometimes we talk about how like an ace can kick everybody else down. Like Micah Parsons joins the Packers pass rush, and now Rashawn Gary doesn't have to do as much, yada, yada. Sometimes getting the complimentary guy, like the way I think Meyers is like the perfect secondary receiver for a team, can help everybody else out, even a guy like BTJ, and make him the true number one. But you're a number one that you only do the stuff that you're really good at, which is vertical stuff, down the field stuff, outbreakers, where he doesn't have to run over the middle. And then even We see maybe this is Jakobi Meyers just bringing that grit to this team. There's BTJ running in front of Jakobi Meyers on a catch and run and pancaking a guy against the Titans last week. It was like, where's this physicality coming from? But no, Jakobi Meyers has just been the safety net of this offense, gets to the right spots. It's the same routes, it's the same concepts they've been running, and it's just helped everybody else out. Travis Hunter got hurt, and it was like, oh man, what is this season for the Jags? But Meyers has just been such a breath of fresh air and just lifting this floor up with this offense. And now you get Brenton Strange back, and that is a interesting top three. BTJ, Meyers, and Strange is a pretty good top three of pass catchers with really complementary skill sets. This is making a lot more sense to me and making a lot more sense for how this offense is going. We'll see how the offensive line holds up, but again, it's a wide open AFC. And they have taken advantage. They've done enough, and they've done enough where even against good pass rushers, done enough to stay alive and play well. I don't know. I just feel better about the Jags just because of Jakobi frickin' Meyers, who I've always kind of liked, but now it's just like this was the perfect team situation for him, for a team that needed this guy so badly.
Yeah, and a guy who needed to get out of where he was too, clearly wasn't happy.
Oh my
and I don't
God,
blame
so
him for not being happy in Las Vegas. So yeah, he's a great fit in this offense. He's a great fit for all the reasons that you pointed out there. And you know, it was kind of in the first quarter, it was him and Parker Washington as the number 1 and 2 receivers. They ran a route on 100% of the dropbacks in the first quarter, and then he got hurt, which I think will open. Parker Washington got hurt, and obviously as midway through the second quarter, something like that. So then BTJ ends up playing a lot more the rest of the way. And yeah, a couple things. One, I totally echo everything you said about Meyers. Just always a really awesome player, and I think it's going to be really important to this team. I loved that trade. I thought that was a great trade for both sides, and I think there's a shot that he actually could get extended by this team too. He is a free agent in the offseason. Even though they've made a lot of investments at the wide receiver position, I still think that there's a shot that he's just really important for this team going forward. And I think with Brian Thomas Jr., you know, people were kind of dunking on the blocking, like the team tweeting out a blocking highlight for Brian Thomas, being like, man, things are really down bad when you go from 1,300 yards to like now the team is tweeting out blocking highlights. And I get it. Yeah. It's an easy joke to make. I probably made the joke to somebody along the way too. However, I'm like, I'm take shopping this take. Remember when they're not analogous situations necessarily at all, I don't think. But Brandon Ayuk was a guy who had a really promising rookie season, and then got himself really struggled in his second season. And you know how he got himself out of that doghouse? He started blocking his ass off, baby. Started playing with a lot more physicality, and then it just went up and up and up and up until he got himself a big contract extension. We don't need to talk about what happened after that contract extension.
No.
But again,
everything went great after that. No. Everything went amazing.
Again, not perfectly analogous situations, but yeah, I do think that Brian Thomas, and I'm not going to put it all on him. I think he obviously has to own a lot of the struggles here, but I can also kind of look at the coaching staff and the way that Liam Cohen talked about, oh, I didn't realize he could do this and this and this and this and this and that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they got a little carried away with all the things he could do that he couldn't do. And now they're saying, all right, let's pare it back a little bit and let's use, like, as you say, use him in ways that are good for his skill set. And we know he's good at these things as opposed to these things that we've asked him to do that he's not good in. And I think they can find that here and going forward, maybe not the rest of the way this year, but like he's not somebody I'd be trying to bail on. I'd be trying to find out how he fits in here and then how that works in a 3 receiver set of him and Travis Hunter and maybe Jakobi Meyers next year. Like I think there's still something there. So that's one of those things where I think you put a lot on a player and he doesn't really respond to it. Like, okay, let's dial back and find out where it works. And I think Jakobi Meyers actually can be a big part of that for Brian Thomas as well.
I do too. Sometimes it's just, you need guys, like that's what I really like about Meyers, and we've talked about this, is that he can wind up outside, he can wind up in the slot. Yeah, he's a good blocker. He's good against this. He's good against that. Like, he checks a lot of boxes. Like he just does a lot of things well. And sometimes you get those guys, I usually talk about with offensive linemen or DBs, where I say best 5 enabler. But that's what Meyers lets you do with your receiving room. It's like, okay, we're only going to let the other guy, I can do everything pretty well. I'm going to let you guys do the things that you're aces at. And BTJ has some limitations and stuff, but again, lets him drop in and do that stuff. So yeah, I feel a little bit better about the Jaguars. I said they had the same playoff odds as the Texans. I'm a liar. They have better odds. They're 83% right now on New York Times. So 4 out of 5 times they're making the playoffs. That's why it's significant that it's like, okay, look, they win this week, it's 96%. They're in, basically. And the defense, it's not perfect, but they do some cool stuff. Anthony Campanelli does some cool stuff. It's, again, not all perfect, but I really like the blitz packages. I like some of the third down looks that they do. Josh Hines-Allen is playing really well. Since their bye week, Allen has he has 33 pressures since their bye week, which is the most in the NFL. Second place in the NFL is 26. He's got 5.5 sacks, and he's got 60 pressures overall, which is fourth overall in the NFL. Only 6 sacks, but that's the thing. Those pressures add up to sacks. Maybe we get Walker back from his injury. Yeah. Jags, God, just every time we talk about the Jags, it's such a different tone. But there's a hint of optimism when I'm talking about the Jags going into week 14. So we'll see how the rest of this month goes, because literally anything could happen with that team. Let's get to your final one here before we close it out. What is your last thing to know in this playoff race, Matt?
My last one, and this can be pretty quick. If the Rams have a fatal flaw, it's definitely going to be the corners. It's going to be the secondary. And I am maybe overreacting and to being spooked to what I saw in this game against the Carolina Panthers, because
it's because you're charting Jalen Coker and you're just like,
literally, it's the first thing I did on Monday.
Go ball.
Nate, that's literally the first
Coker
thing I did on Monday morning was isolated wide receiver, nobody else, number one receiver in the one side. Like, baby, that was Jalen Coker on fourth down, and he worked Emmanuel Forbes, who I think has played good football this year. But it's still Emmanuel Forbes. Like, it's still the weakest part of the roster. Like, you can quote me any stat you want, but I'm just saying, using the old eye test in this past game, that looked like a pretty big problem to me. Like, when they line, and this team likes to line up in those single high looks because they want to bring guys into the box and they want to blitz and they do all this stuff. So they are going to leave those corners on an island. And it was Bryce Young and Jalen Coker that made them pay. Mm-hmm. They got fried at the highest rate in the league on a per drop back basis in week 13 when they were in single high looks. Like, and it was, and I think, obviously, I think the world of Coker. I think he's a really, really good player, but in like the Jakobi Meyers vein of players, that's what I think Jalen Coker could end up being. And he's cooking you on go routes as the isolated X receiver. That's not a good sign. Obviously, McMillan had a big win as well in this game for his only reception, but just to me, I think if a team can really can really make you pay with those receivers, that is going to be a problem for the Rams. And look, they can obviously be in a different game script where they're not having those turnovers. They haven't had turnover problems all year, and then they had a bunch in this game. That obviously puts the whole thing into a weird area. Yeah. So they can go shot for shot if a team is able to score on their corners. But I mean, I'm going to remember that Jalen Coker play as I'm thinking about the Rams when we get into the postseason, when they have to go against some big boy, real deal passing games, and just thinking like, okay, late in the fourth quarter, something like that, or they get in one of those single high looks and a quarterback, the other team blocks it up, quarterback reads it out and rips that throw like Bryce Young did to the great Jalen Coker. I think that's going to be something I remember as we talk about this team throughout the course of the postseason.
And I've noticed a couple teams, and again, I think the Rams defense is still overall good. Yeah, I agree with this, though. And which is funny because this was the initial concern about this team going into the season was I like Kobe Durant. But I was like, really? You're going with you're going with Forbes? Okay. And he's played well. A lot of people have highlighted, including myself, but that was kind of the thing. That's how Forbes looked in Washington, was those couple plays. And you just go, team by team, and you go matchup by matchup in the NFC is that, all right, we gotta have it blitz situation, or we're gonna go in. Are we gonna get manipulated against this look? Like, are we feeling comfortable with this? Because I've noticed a couple teams recently, namely the 49ers, a little bit the Seahawks, and then even this past week with the Panthers, is a lot of teams were really working them with some stack stuff and some bunch stuff and motion at the snap and trying to either get 2 inbreakers or 2 outbreakers. And there's a lot of concepts that do that, but why that matters against this Rams team, you mentioned it with all the late rotation that they do. If you have the rotation, you have the motion, you can get manipulated with your leverage. And I noticed the 49ers did it a bunch against them. It was 2 inbreakers, a bunch of 2 inbreaker stuff. And that's just something I noticed, and I've seen other teams start picking up on it, but that's really putting Forbes on an island. Sometimes he makes plays and he overlaps, but sometimes he gets got. So I agree with this one, but then you look at currently they're the 2 seed. Just look at other teams they might have to play in the NFC. The Bears, we mentioned them. It's a little inconsistent, but it's an explosive passing game, and they have valid receivers that can attack and a quarterback that's willing to push the ball. The Eagles, imperfect offense again, but A.J. Brown,
single high looks,
Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts, they could go nuclear at any time. That's what's so, I know it's frustrating with the Eagles offense and all that, but at any time they can have a 3-play drive that goes 90 yards and score a touchdown. They've done it a couple times in just even the last couple of weeks. The Bucs, all right, Mike Evans, I just saw, might be coming back soon. All right, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Mecca Ibuka. I know there's some inconsistencies with that, but still, those are very valid receivers. Seahawks, JSN, Packers, their passing game is really starting to cook. Jordan Love, I mentioned Drake May is up there with the podium. I think Jordan Love should be on the podium too as MVP. And then I just think the receiver room has really come together. Romeo Doubs, Wicks, of course, is playing some of the best football of his entire career because he's actually catching the football. Ability was never the issue with Wicks. It was just literally doing the receiver part of being a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That was his issue.
I was this close to making a Packers receiver talking point, and I was like, I can't do it. I was this close to making a, I know. I was like, I can't do it. Do
you have like a little mini thought? You want a mini thought to throw in here? What was it?
Man, I liked it when they just threw 3 guys out there on Thanksgiving, and it was just those 3 guys for the most part. It was Dobbs, it was Watson, who's playing great football. I never saw this coming. Great football coming off a torn ACL. His best play at the catch point all season, throughout the course of his career. And yeah, I think Wicks is much better as this move around, run out breakers from the slot player than he was as kind of a pure perimeter guy replacing Watson last year. I think that brought out some of this can happen sometimes when the guy's not in like the proper role. I think they know it, and then they start really falling apart at the catch point too, and that's part of what was going on with Wicks last year, and it becomes a bit of like a mental cascading effect. And I really like the way this room was deployed, but I bailed on the talking point one because, like, God, I can't believe I'm doing it. And then secondly, Reed is coming back, Golden's coming back, so they're going to get back to that damn rotation again at some point. So what's the point of wasting my breath?
I know, because I was literally about to say, I was like, I'm kind of digging it. It's just a bunch of big athletic receivers. And they need Reed. That's the thing. It's like they can't just, they need Reed. They need his particular skill set to create those layups. So it's just like, again, they're going to rotate these guys. This is the way it is. I know. It's like, and now Watson and Golden are kind of samey in the weirdest way, even though they're different sizes. They kind of have similar role. I know Watson has been a guy that I was so low on, and now I'm like, I really like him. He's even blocking now. And then same with Dobbs. Dobbs has gone from, I was indifferent always on Dobbs. I had a 3rd, 4th round grade on him as a draft prospect. I always thought he could be a fine starter, like a solid starter. And now I think he's just outright good, and which has been just cool. I just love that. I love seeing a player develop into something even more than I expected. So, and
did you see LaFleur right now plant a little kiss on Wicks during that Thursday night or during the Thanksgiving game? I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm excited, buddy, but he's really excited. That was cool to see.
LaFleur, it is French. It is a French last
very
name.
Romantic.
It was very romantic. Yeah, no, I know we're talking about the Rams and all that, but just going through the NFC, it's like there's a lot of teams with good receivers and good passing games. 49ers, we just joked about them. Shoot, Ricky Pearsall's back. The Jawan Jennings still cooking. I know. So it's just, again, it's very, Cowboys might make it, those guys, with the Cowboys. So no, but it matters because that's how the playoffs goes. They're going to pick out whatever that ward is. They're going to try and find it and force you to freeze it off. Otherwise, these teams are just going to magnify it. But no, I think that's significant with the Rams, even though I think the defense still is overall very, very good. All right, we're closing it out today. I had one more about the Bills, but it's just a continuation of the AFC point. Hey, they're very matchup dependent, weird. And I feel better about the Bills than maybe I did a couple of weeks ago. I think their run defense is still bad, but their pass defense is actually pretty good. I'll be back on Thursday with Charles to preview Week 14. Is this the final bye week? Final bye weeks for teams for a guy that has Drake May on every single fantasy team. It's kind of annoying for a lot of playoff pushes I need to make. That's the big reason that I know that there's bye weeks in Week 14. But Charles and I will be back on Thursday to preview on probably another great slate. Not probably, it is a great slate of games. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice on social media. That is Matt Harmon. You can find him at Matt Harmon_BYB, which you're working on this week. I'll be with you on the Fantasy Forecast tomorrow. I know that.
That's right. We got the film room. Be interesting to figure out what we're going to talk about there. Man, it's just a fun time. It's a fun time in the NFL calendar. But yeah, so we'll be doing that tomorrow. Yeah, lots of stuff coming out. So just fantasy forecast. This for week 14 bye week. God, I got a dynasty team that's got like Christian McCaffrey, Jawan Jennings, Tedero McMillan, Brock Purdy, Stephon Diggs, and I didn't realize how screwed I was until I realized, it's over. Like I'm out. Yeah, I'm out now. I'm not making the playoffs because I needed this win, and it is not going to happen.
Yeah, and some teams or some leagues, the playoffs start next week for me, and I'm like, oh shoot, I actually need to win this game. Like, this is actually a must win. I thought I had some breathing room here, but yeah,
nope.
Yeah, so make sure your fantasy teams are good. Make sure to check out the fantasy forecast for all the tidbits over there. It's always great stuff Matt and the guys have. But also subscribe to us here at Football 301. Follow us, rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast, or watch us on YouTube on the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel, like some of you are right now. Make sure to subscribe there as well. Thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it on each of those videos. Thanks to Stone, Austin Masson behind the scenes for making us look and sound good. Thank you all for listening. See you guys next time.